my heart. Like a guy with animals, there's just something about it. Especially birds. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, sorry. I need to stop fangirling. Hello everyone, it's Luli, and today I'm going to be introducing OTOME Games with Tsundere characters. But before I start, note that although I would not consider any of what I include in this video spoilers, I'm aware that what you consider spoilers and what I consider spoilers may not quite align, so if you're even a little bit sensitive and you don't even want to know what the characters look like, for example, then I would swiftly move on. But anyway, let me start. Firstly, I would like to thank Novaterix and Claggy for recently subbing, as well as all of my patrons that have been supporting me. As for the question of the day, it is, do you enjoy tsundere characters? So think about it while maybe watching this video. So first up, what is a tsundere character? So tsundere characters are characters who kind of struggle showing their true emotions, and there's like a gap between how what they really think and what they actually react, and it's almost kind of like they think one thing but they struggle to kind of accept that they think that and then show it to everyone else, so they're quite like spiky, or as I call it, angy. But once they do feel comfortable with the main character, usually they sort of soften up a little bit, and they may still be a little bit like spiky or a bit like angry with you or funny with you, but they show more of their like blushy side, as I like to call it, or their friendly side. And I think what's amazing, like what I adore about some of their characters is like how blushy they get. They're like so reactive, and like they get flustered easily, and they like splatter. Oh my god, it's so cute. So that's one of the reasons why I've made this video. And why are they so popular? So I know I went into a little bit of a fangirl moment just now, but I think it's because it's rewarding to see the main character like finally break through that shell and finally see the kind of melty, friendly side. And when they do blush and get flustered, like especially the sprites and stuff, I don't know what it is, but a good blushy face makes that character so endearing. And I don't know, I always get like kind of that's kind of how I express it, but I find it so adorable. Of course, there are different types of tsunderes. Some I don't find as cute as others, but that's another story. Now, they're often confused with kuuderes, which makes sense, but I would say the difference is, and this of course is subjective and my opinion, other people may disagree with me, but tsunderes seem to be more reactive to other people. So if someone points out that a tsundere is feeling a certain way that they actually are, but they're embarrassed to admit it, they'll like get flustered, they'll like kind of get all like angry or funny, or they'll basically react to that person or character much more than a kuudere character who would just kind of not say anything or kind of smartly dodge whatever the topic is, for example. And they're definitely more kind of like stoic and cool, so they give off like a more mature vibe. Like they're cool, because kuudere is kuru and dere, so they have to be cool essentially. Cool and collected, I suppose, whereas tsunderes I find often look quite cutesy. I could be wrong, but that is often what I tend to see. And also kuudere's way of reacting to feelings is a lot more like subtle. So while tsundere, you do already see sneak peeks of them getting like embarrassed or awkward, or feeling something towards you. Kuuderes, I feel, takes a lot longer, and they're so much better at hiding it. So that's my personal opinion regarding the difference between tsunderes and kuuderes. But anyway, let me already start going on about what games contain tsundere characters. So first up is Olympia Soiree. Now this game is based in a world where color dictates the hierarchy of people. So the primary colors, blue, yellow and red, are like at the top, and then any mixture of those colors, like for example green, purple, are one level below, and then anything more, it just keeps on going lower the more mixed colors you have. Out of that is another island called Tenyo Island, which is where those of the color of white, I guess, sort of reside there, and they have the ability to make the sun rise. And unfortunately, due to circumstances, Olympia, the main character, is the only one left, and therefore she is kind of given the mission, I suppose, of finding a husband and giving birth so that there are heirs that can inherit that ability and, you know, that line. So it's a when I explain it like that, it sounds quite like dystopian almost. I don't know, but you know, despite that, there were really sweet moments, especially because, you know, the main character doesn't know much. She's always trying to learn. She's always trying to make the place a better place, and, you know, her discovering what it feels like to fall in love and how that develops is actually quite sweet. And although this game has horrific bad endings, I mean, I like horrific bad endings, but yeah, the bad endings are really horrific in some of them, where you're like, what just happened? But the happy, like, good endings, of course, are, you know, great, seeing them, you know, together, for example. And so I think overall it's a solid game. Now, the tsundere character that appears in this is called Riku. He is of the color of blue, as you can see, and works as one of the guards who basically gatekeeps the entrance to Yomi. Now, Yomi is basically like an underground city almost, which is where all the criminals and characters with all sorts of mix of colors end up. So it's almost like a sort of jail-like place. Except, you know what? It doesn't actually look too bad. Like, there's a hot spring there, and I love hot springs, but anyway, more importantly, Riku gatekeeps that, and initially he may appear kuudere, but he is extremely reactive and goes into blushy mode, like, immediately whenever someone, like, pokes at him. So I think a lot of his, like, friends and colleagues can't help but, like, I guess poke at him and, like, tease him. And I'm not gonna lie, he probably is one of my favorite characters with a blushy face, because he really does look flustered and, like, panicked. I love that sprite so much. If you've played this game, you'll know exactly which one, and if you plan on playing it, when you play it, you'll know what I mean. There's a particular sprite where he looks adorable because he genuinely looks like he's panicking. So yeah, initially I thought maybe he's a kuudere, but with time I realized he's actually a tsundere because of the flustered expressions that appear quite frequently. But he is really adorable. Next up is No 9. So this is a game where, you know, it's weird because at the beginning the main character for like a tiny snippet is a boy. So you play as a boy who ends up going back in time to like the Taisho period, and then from when he goes back he ends up like following one of the main characters, Koharu, into boarding this like basically a floating airship which looks really like sci-fi-esque. So it's just weird like combination of not like kind of historical fiction, I guess, because he's gone back in time and it's in Taisho period, mixed with this airship that looks very modern. And basically the group of people that live on this ship are renowned as espers, and they have special abilities which you only learn about their particular abilities in snippets here and there, you know, due in between like different routes. You know, but then when after this snippet as the boy main character, you then explore this world with like from the perspective of three female characters. So, you know, there are actually three main characters, like main characters, which you can explore this whole world through. And it's nice because the three are actually very distinct in personality. And then there are three love interests per main character. And I guess because the three isn't that many, so they're able to fit them with each respective main character really well. And I think that's what I really liked about this game. And sometimes you see interactions between the main characters, which is really sweet because it kind of almost feels like you're at a sleepover or like on a field trip or, you know, on a work a field trip or something. I don't know, but it feels like that because you will see like the interactions between the main characters as well, and I just really find it adorable. So that's one of the reasons I also like Norn 9. But in Norn 9, there's a character called Akito. And he seems a little bit scary, a little bit like a delinquent. He's quite like aggressive with his words, I guess. But he does have a soft side. Now, I have not played his route yet, because you're supposed to like play it a bit later down the line. But even in the common route and in the routes of all the other characters, he does care about people, and he complains but then helps out the main characters anyway. So like he might make them food because they're hungry, or he might help them out by like in a variety of ways. And it's kind of sweet because, you know, he acts like he really doesn't want to, and who knows, maybe he doesn't, but he does it because he's caring. And I am looking forward to playing his route, because it probably will be like that sort of demographic of him complaining while secretly liking the main character, and I love that so much. Now, one of my favorite games is it's Cupid Parasite. The plot is about the main character Lynette, who resides in the human world for a while. This is because, you know, she's been trying to put couples together with her bow and arrow, except they keep on splitting up after a while. For a while, she's kind of like enjoying human stuff, and then realizes that humans also matchmake, and she feels that that's a method that she will be able to adopt to matchmake, except, you know, of course, her father's like completely against it, and she rebels against this, goes down to the human world to prove to her father that, you know, it is possible to matchmake without using a bow and arrow. And yeah, so in order to prove to her father, I guess she kind of has to climb up the ladder. So she's like trying to get a promotion. One day the CEO is like, look, there are these 5 hopeless guys who we can't seem to find a partner for. If you manage to like, you know, find partners for them, then we will promote you. And so, you know, it's all about her trying to matchmake these guys, except they are very problematic in a myriad of ways. Now, Ryuki is the tsundere. He is the glamour parasite. He literally has no interest in those he considers unattractive. In fact, it goes further than that. If someone is too unattractive to him, he can't see them. Like, and it gets ridiculous. And what makes me laugh about him as a character is whenever he meets someone, he has like a color code. He like says a color code, and depending on how pretty the color code is, it kind of symbolizes how pretty he thinks you are. And it was funny during his route, like looking up all the color codes to see what he thought of different people. I couldn't help it. And I'm sure if you have played this game, and if you do plan to play this game, you will probably be doing the same thing as me. Now, the problem is that he's quite harsh on Cupid and often insults her, but then he does help her by like taking her to massages, like buying, like making sure she wears the same, like good makeup or like clothes, and like he's always spraying at her to try and make sure that her face, you know, is like properly moisturized and doesn't go dry. And, you know, as much as he's like constantly insulting her and being mean, he is helping her, and, you know, he doesn't like to admit it, or when he does, he gives an excuse as to why he's helping her. But sort of especially later down the lines, you're like, you just like her. So it is kind of seeing it, like it is fun seeing him develop from constantly making excuses or like giving reasons as to why, you know, he's helping her, to like kind of more of a gentle side, like less meanness, shall we say. But yeah, no, he was quite an interesting character as well. Now, Lover Pretend. So the main character, I love it how all these games, it just starts sort of off with, so this main character, but anyway, because it does revolve around the main character. But so the main character is an aspiring screenwriter who ends up choosing to help her supervisor with this major movie. But she actually has like an ulterior motive of finding out who her real father was, because when she was born, no one knew who her father was and all this, except for the fact that he was, you know, he was involved in creating this drama or movie, I can't remember, that her mum had done the screenwriting of. And basically that's her real motive, and that's kind of like the baseline plot. But the more interesting part, I'd say, is due to circumstances, she ends up having to pretend to be lovers with these like 4 love interests, and the reason's quite funny. I believe Harumi's reason was because, and I just realized I like flipped it, but then the text's flipped on. Anyway, I'm rambling now. But for Harumi, the reason was because he accidentally blurted that she's his girlfriend in order to avoid like basically his fangirls, because he's the son of the director, and he's cute, so I guess he attracts lots of girls in university, and it's pain. So that's the reason why they're dating, so that he can just kind of like hide, you know, pretend he's got someone and can run away from these girls. But he was such a stereotypical Tsunboy. Like, he is stubborn, he never admits his feelings, he gets grumpy when you point out the fact that he's feeling a certain way, and you know, everyone is like, ah, don't be silly, you just don't want to admit it, and he just gets all like spiky, and it's quite funny. But oh my goodness, when he shows his true colors, because there is a certain hobby, I'm not going to go into detail because that's like part of his character, but there is a hobby that he's really into, and when he starts talking about it, oh my god, you see the dead side, and it's like, it's adorable. And his route, I was like rolling around, squeeing, like all like happy, because he was so adorable. There's so many moments I'm like, oh my god, I want to put you in my pocket. So that's the kind of character he is, and I thought he was fun. He was definitely fangirling worthy. Like, his route, or to be honest, this game was a character game where you enjoy the trope of that character and like the way that character is, and like kind of fangirl over them more so than like enjoy the actual plot. At least that's how I felt about it. Then you've got Color Malice. I think many of you know about this game and the tsundere that resides in this game. But for those who don't know what Color Malice is based in a world where there is Shinjuku that is terrorized by this terrorist group, and police officer Ichika is one day kidnapped. Oh, by the way, Ichika is the main character. But Ichika is kidnapped by the leader of this organization, during which a collar is placed around her neck, and through that collar the terrorist leader is able to communicate to her and has told her that she can't tell anyone about the collar or try to remove it, because if she does, it will instantly kill her. And so it's this like kind of, it's almost thriller, like kind of eerie vibes, yeah, it's all about her trying to investigate this terrorist group and find out a way to remove this collar from her. And it's interesting because each route kind of investigates one of the terrorist members, and as you investigate each terrorist member, like it all kind of gradually comes together, and it is kind of like collecting different puzzle pieces and putting it in one. And I don't think any otome game has made me binge it as much as this one has. Honestly, I got through it so quickly, it was ridiculous. Now Takeru, again, I think a lot of people know about him. If I'm to be completely honest, many people like him, but for me, he wasn't the kind of tsundere I like, because he is constantly insulting Ichika, and he is one that hides his feelings by being mean. And I don't know, I didn't like the way he treated Ichika. Like, despite him liking her, I get it, but like, I just thought all his mean comments were a little bit unnecessary, because they felt a lot more like personal and digging at her. However, it is quite cute with his donut obsession, as you can even see in the picture here. He is obsessed with donuts, and it is adorable how he gets happy a little bit but doesn't really show it, but he is clearly happy when Ichika brings him donuts. Now, he does kind of give off a little bit more of a kuudere vibe maybe, because he isn't as reactive as many other Tsunboys that I've come across. However, I'm really sorry to say, but I don't think he's cool enough to be he looks like a cute little chihuahua. I mean, although I don't necessarily like his personality and the way he behaves around Ichika, have you looked at, like, have you seen him? He looks like he's perfect for merch. Like, he's just little, round and cute. So I'm sorry, Takeru, but yeah, that's why you are classified as a tsundere in my mind. But please do let me know your thoughts on what you think about some of these characters, because like I saw someone have like the take that Takeru is a kuudere, and I thought that was quite interesting, and it did kind of make me think a bit more about the different tropes and how they sort of sometimes overlap. Now, Winter's Witch, Spirits of Edo. So this is based in a world where objects can turn into humans, and monsters are terrorizing the city of Edo. Now, by this, I mean when someone really cherishes a piece of equipment, like whether it's something you're given as a child and you've been like cherishing it from then or whatever, anything where really strong emotions were put in, that's when they can turn into these humanoid things. And that's sort of like the lore behind some of this. But yeah, these monsters are terrorizing the city of Edo. They spawn as a result of like negative emotions, and the main character is able to detect the appearance of monsters due to the fact that she's able to see emotions in the form of strings. So in fact, she can actually see the neck of people, and there will be a string around their necks, and depending on the color, she can tell how they're feeling. Now, of course, that kind of freaked many people out, which is why she's been living in isolation high up in the mountains. But sort of, I guess, because she's able to see these like strings, when there is so much dark, depressing emotions surrounding an area, she can really see like loads of them, and when they all accumulate to a huge extent, that's when a monster appears, which is why she has the ability to, you know, predict when a monster is about to spawn, which of course is really helpful. And that's why she ends up being summoned to the city of Edo to become part of this governmental organization that helps protect the civilians from such monsters. Now, the character that appears in this, who's tsundere, is Yoichi. He is one of those really lazy natured ones that, you know, doesn't want to have much to do with the main character, or when he does help her, is very like with reluctance. I mean, you can tell he's quite kind-hearted and cares, but he's very much like, oh, I can't be bothered, but fine, I'll help you type of thing. But as he like gradually reluctantly helps her, you can tell that he's gradually like starting to like her, but he doesn't want to admit it, so he'll be a little bit spiky and like a bit angry. And he always comes up with excuses as to why he's helping her, for example, and it is quite like cute, and towards the end he is definitely more like open, much like all tsunderes out there, and it is fun seeing that character development, as is always the case with tsundere. Now, one thing that I particularly liked about his character is that he really attracts animals, and the mascot character of this game, oh my god, it's a little, oh, what are they called, sparrows? It's so adorable, because like this mascot character Sparrow is already adorable, but she like latches onto Yoichi for some reason. I don't know why animals like him so much, but she latches onto him and is like really happy when she gets to see him. And you see her on the sprites of like these love interests if she does go near them, and oh my heart, like a guy with animals, I just, there's just something about it. Especially birds. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, sorry. I need to stop fangirling. But yeah, that is why I really like Yoichi in this game. I thought it was all just overall cute. The mascot character definitely helped. Now, Amnesia Memories, the plot is basically, it's quite simple and straightforward, really. Basically, the main character is like woken up by this like weird fairy thing called Orion, and she, you know, is told that she has lost her memories due to the fact that, I can't remember, they bumped into each other or something. It's explained right at the beginning. And he tells her that she needs to recover these memories, but the only way to do so is to kind of like live life, experience different things to like trigger her, you know, lost memories. And then he's kind of like, but look, you need to make sure people don't find out. Because if people find out that, you know, you've lost your memories, they will put you in like a hospital or somewhere where you can't like stimulate your brain as much. So that's why she's like constantly having to make sure that people don't notice that she's lost her memories. And that is actually what I like about this game. In each route, you've, you know, put in a sense of paranoia. What if he finds out? Is that the right thing I said? Oh, does she know about this? You know, all the options, you're kind of questioning, like, do I really go for that option? Because can I either trust this person, or, you know, all these questions pop up in your mind every time you have to make a decision. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that state of paranoia in this game. It felt very like eerie, and it almost had like horror vibes, I guess, and I just love that about it. Now the tsundere that appears in this is actually kind of similar to Takeru. He's called Shin. And he's this overbearing childhood friend who sort of shows his affection in like a mean way. So he clearly cares for her and he does not deny that. So that's kind of different from your usual tsundere characters. But he kind of cares for her. No, you should do this. Why are you being such a klutz? You're being silly, like that kind of way. And I don't know, he's like, I don't know how I feel about it, because it's almost like, it does feel a bit like he's being too mean to her, and it's kind of unnecessary. And perhaps the reason why he's mean is because he struggles to just simply be nice to her and like just to simply care about her. But it did grate on me a little bit. And his face is always like grumpy, like he rarely smiles. And I mean, I guess some people could argue that maybe he's more of a kuudere, but I think he's a tsun because, well, one, I don't think he's cool enough or mature enough. He's a bit too emotional. Yeah, I mean, there are moments when he shows his blushy side, and then it is kind of cute. But I don't know, I think he was too much of an angry / mean tsundere. You can probably see like a kind of pattern here, where if the tsunboy just gets flustered a lot and makes excuses for his actions, then I find it cute. Whereas if it's a tsunboy that like does something and says things mean to hide his emotions, then like it bothers me. So I guess there are like different types of tsunderes, and like you may probably have a, you know, preference within this category as well. But yeah, Amnesia is another game that I would suggest if you're looking for a tsundere character to play. Oh, I love the tsundere in this one. So you've got Taisho Alice. Taisho Alice is got kind of like different fairy tale stories put into one. Basically, the main character Yurika wanders into a number of different worlds, and she has to rescue the heroines, or the heroes, I guess, because basically the love interests are like the main character of fairy tales. So this, you know, guy is Red Riding Hood, and the main character must protect him. And it's a bit like that in all the others. You've got like Cinderella, you've got Snow White, you've got Gretel, that sort of thing. And that's kind of like the premise of this game. Apparently I haven't gotten far enough. It gets darker and darker, I've heard, and then things start fitting together, and apparently by the 3rd episode it gets really interesting. I've only managed to complete 4 love interests, so episode 1 and episode 2, so I'm looking forward to going into episode 3, to be honest, from what other people have told me. Now the tsundere that appeared in this game is called Red. Oh my god, no character has made me like squeeze so much and make me go oh, and fangirl as much as Red has, I think. I think the thing is, he seems cool for like the first 10 minutes of gameplay, but then he turns into like a complete hot mess where you're like, what happened to the cool act? Like, I thought you'd be one of those kuudere characters, but damn, what happened? And he just gets flustered really easily. I've never come across a character that gets so flustered. And I mean from over like the tiniest things. For example, the character's a little bit too close to him and he gets flustered. I'm not gonna lie, it was super endearing and it made me laugh so much. And you know, the main character Yurika is actually quite confident. She's happy with herself, she's confident. So of course she's like enjoys poking him, and I you know, that's kind of a dynamic you don't often see. Often the main character just gets insulted or doesn't understand, like they're too dense to understand how the tsundere boy is feeling. But in this one, she fully well knows what's going on with Red and, you know, his emotions. And yet, despite knowing that, she will like poke at him purposely and say like jokes. And it is the unique demographic that I really enjoyed. So I highly recommend him as a tsundere, and I highly recommend you pick up this game if you're interested in him as a character. Note that this one is available on both Switch and PC. So in fact, you know, I'll put that in the description below, like all the what consoles it's available and stuff, because that way you can kind of see whether you can play it or not, that sort of thing. But yeah, I highly recommend Red in Taisho Arisu. He's funny. And I think that, yeah. Last but not least is Brothers Conflict. So the plot of Brothers Conflict is that the main character's father remarries. And then she now has to move in with the majority of her stepbrothers, because a lot of the stepbrothers live together in this like complex or whatever. And now that she's living there, you know, it ends up like sort of romance here and there, because like I guess they're living in the same house and like they're the same age, and though they're like brothers, they're not really, because by this point she's like 16 or 17 or something, and they're like complete strangers. So it's not really brothers, if that makes sense. It's just more a circumstance that occurred as a result of her father marrying. And you know, it just happens to be that the mom has given birth to so many cute boys. It's when you think about it, it's a really weird premise. But it's a nice kind of slice of life otome game where you can just sort of gradually enjoy romance. There is a gameplay element where you have to like schedule things, you have to kind of go on dates and have sleepovers with different like characters. I actually really like this game. It's a nice game to play in between other games or while you're playing the other games, because it's so like relaxed and laid back. Yeah, I think it's nice. I like it. It's a bit like a snack game where you pick at it every now and then, like you eat a little bit and then you're like, okay, I'm happy, and then you come back to it. It's like that sort of game. Now, the tsundere that appears in this game, I know I just said Red is one of my favorites, but Yusuke, oh god, oh bless him, he is such a mess. So he's like the main character throughout, you know, school as a classmate, so he already has a crush on her. And then when he discovers that now she's his, you know, stepsister, I guess, he freaks the hell out. And, you know, he thinks he's hiding the fact that he likes her very well. And, you know, the main character is a little bit dense, so she doesn't get it or realize it. But all her brothers can sort of tell how he feels about her. And again, he gives off this delinquent vibes, but because like he's trying to act all like bad, I guess it's not that he's trying to act it, he just is. But he's really kind at heart, and you know, flusters so easily when it has anything to do with the main character. And he's one of the very few characters I've come across that literally has a crying sprite, where he looks very desperate in hiding what he actually means, and like when he's flustered he like blushes and there's like a little tear. Oh my god, it makes me laugh. His route was such a comedic one. I really enjoyed it. And you know, if you like tsundere characters, then he is a bit of a like tsundere bread and butter type of situation where he is such a classic tsundere. You will definitely enjoy his route. So this one's unfortunately unlocalized. However, there is a fan patch for the Vita edition if you are interested. You know, I think I'm really grateful for those who fan translate, because obviously not all of these games get localized, particularly, you know, the older titles. So yeah, I'm glad about that. But it is unlocalized, so bear that in mind. I just thought I'd slot an unlocalized one in, because why not? He's, you know, I really like him, so. Now, what about heroines? So, you know, I think main characters being Tsun can be very hit or miss. I think there is a clear difference between like female Tsun girls and male Tsunboys. I feel like females are a bit more aggressive for some reason, while males less so. I'm not sure why, but that's the case. But obviously, because it's such a strong character trait, not everyone enjoys a main character who has such a strong personality. Now, I personally like it, because it's fun seeing what she ends up saying, versus like what she was actually feeling, and like the gap between, and it's nice, like kind of interesting seeing them sort of feel different things as a result of miscommunication, that sort of thing. But there are two main characters I can think of. One is Mikoto from No 9, who is quite mature. I think she doesn't mean to say, well, most tsunderes don't mean to say, the mean things, a pun unintended. But in Mikoto's case, I think she particularly struggles because she really understands that there is no, like, it's not necessary for her to say things in the way she accidentally does. So she does often have this kind of conflict in her mind, like, I didn't want to say that, or I didn't mean that, or I know I shouldn't say that, like that sort of thing, which was I quite like that. It was basically a mature version of Hibari, who is from Variable Barricade. Now she is still in high school, and she's in a game Variable Barricade where she sort of ends up having to live with 4 damens, aka like troublesome guys, all with like unique problems and histories, because her grandfather wants her to marry and she has to pick one of them, and so she's put in this really awkward situation. She's such a Tsun girl, like, and she's always complaining and like telling these guys how much of a nuisance they are. I personally didn't mind it. I was quite understanding of her situation, particularly as she's so young and then placed in this, like, yeah, it's all difficult for her. So I totally understand why she impulsively says certain things. I felt like I didn't feel as much of a sort of conflict in her mind as I did with Mikoto. Like, I think with Hibari, she doesn't even realize she's much of a Tsun girl, and she doesn't even realize really sometimes that she doesn't necessarily mean what she's saying. But I do feel that some people struggled with her because she's also from like a rich family, of course. So she has like moments of being naive, essentially, and it might sort of, rub some people the wrong way. But I personally like her as a main character. I thought the demographic between her and the love interests were unique, in that you don't have many main characters like this. As I said, a lot of main characters, are quite kind. They're either like kind or they're strong, but like they're quite straightforward. Like they don't have extremely strong character traits, which is fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. But that's why when you do have main characters with like a strong personality, it can be very hit and miss. And I think she is a classic example of that. So yeah, that's something to consider. But I just thought I'd mention the heroines too, because they have a place as well. Now, my personal top 3. This is very much based on not like just the Otome games, but like if I were to combine the Otome game, how much I enjoyed it, as well as how much I enjoyed the love interest. This is my top 3. So in 3rd place is Olympia Soiree. I enjoyed Riku's route. It was quite fun seeing Olympia, who has never been in love before, and Riku kind of like develop together and get to know each other and grow their love together almost. And it was quite nice seeing that, especially with how I think Olympia wants to be straight up with people, but like I think Riku really struggles with that and gets flustered easily, and then Olympia doesn't understand, and it is quite funny seeing those interactions. And Olympia, sorry, I enjoyed because of the horrific bad endings. God, that makes me sound horrible. But because of it was one of the very few games that I played early on in, when I started playing Otome games. So I guess the bad endings left a stronger impression, and also like the seriousness of it. I don't know, it just overall it left a deep impression, and that combined with me liking Riku kind of, up the rank to what I normally say. Second place is Taisho Arisu. Now, of course, I haven't fully completed this game yet, so this is based on probably just Red's route as well as like the vibe I've gotten so far. I honestly adored Red so much. Like, he was just such a fun route. It's very rare for me to fangirl over a character and like not quite live tweet, but live react and chat about it to someone. But I remember when I picked up this game and was talking about Red, I was constantly like messaging in the Taisho Aris channel, like, oh my god, this happened or that happened, and I was like fangirling like crazy over him, because he was just, oh dear. Well, those who have played it will know exactly what I mean. But yeah, so that's why his route, so his character really went well and I really enjoyed it. So Taisho Aris takes second place. First place is Brothers Conflict. So I like this game and you know how I described it anyway. That sort of, it feels like a snack every now and then between other otome games, and it's kind of like my comfort otome game almost, where I kind of come back to it and play it a little bit because why not? And then it feels fresh every time, because the gameplay and then like because of the characters. I don't know, there's something about it that I really enjoy. And then that combined with Yusuke, who is such a classic Tsunboy, and that crying sprite, oh my god, he is just hopeless. I love it so much, which is why it was an easy first place. There wasn't really any question about it, to be honest. But yeah, so those are my personal top 3 tsundere routes / games, I guess. Now the conclusion is, I feel like tsundere is probably one of the most popular tropes because, you know, they're quite iconic. A lot of people know about them if they're into anime or manga, and you know, they can be found throughout like most media. So I think I kind of see it. It's like the gappumoe, as we call it, where there's that gap between what they're like in public versus what they're like with you personally. It's like when you see that gap, it almost feels like, oh, I'm special enough that I get to see this side of this character. And it's just a nice, happy feeling. And I think that's what it also explains the popularity of kuuderes as well. Because, you know, I think kuudere is another trope that people know about and talk about because of that gappumoe. I think kuuderes tend to take a lot longer before you see that doughy, melty, cute side, but some people do prefer that like mature energy that kuuderes give off, as opposed to like the spiky, angry, gets a bit mad and flustered vibe of tsunderes. But anyway, that kind of concludes my video. Hopefully you learned something from that, and now you have an idea of what kind of otome game you may want to play next, because sometimes, you know, sometimes I actually buy otome games based on whether there's a particular trope. I have kind of looked up games that have yanderes in it, not necessarily which one, because with yanderes I do enjoy like discovering which one it is, as opposed to like, I mean, nowadays I don't want to even know whether there is a yandere in the game, but previously when I was wondering what to get games to buy, I did kind of look into what games have yanderes in them, and that did sort of help me narrow down what games I would get next. So yeah, I'm hoping this video kind of helped you in that way as well, where, you know, if there are, you know, if you're a huge tsundere fan and you're really looking for a game that has a tsundere, I have kind of given you most of the options I could think about that's available in English. But anyway, that's that. As is always the case, thank you very much for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and hopefully I will see you in another one of my videos or streams. Bye!